Hey everybody, it's GSC 3. Remember when I made a video? In fact, I made a few videos all those years ago on this tournament. I was so excited to play it, and ever since then, I really wanted to manage in this team. So, my team has yet to play a game, and we'll soon see how that's going to go. There have been 3 games played so far. Um, I guess I should make a quick shout out to Wholesome Shadow, who made a really nice video that I watched. So I highly recommend you go watch it. Wholesome Shadow is trying very hard to make good content related to GSC, and yeah, it's wonderful. So I'll leave a link in the description to his video of the first game of this tournament. It's really fun to watch. Anyways, I figured I would go and talk about the individual teams, what my personal power rankings are, and yeah, I don't want to get too far into the details because I don't really know all of these players all that well. I did have a spreadsheet going into this. I spent all of last week prepping, and I made tryouts. I made my own Discord accessible for people to join. The link no longer lets you in. But I really advertised this hard because I wanted to scout for talent. And I think I did a good job because I planned my resources and all that. I gave a price to just about every player I more or less had on my radar. And I even had a bit of money left over, but I trusted my co-manager with the rest of the money and what to do with the rest of it. We were actually the first team or second team to run out of money. But going into this, we had the most. And that's because I did not buy myself. I am not competing in this GSC Premier League. So it's the second one in a row that I'm not competing in. And that's due to real life issues. It would be very comfortable, but given the team I have, I'm pretty happy about it. So I have retained a player, Inder, who is French, and the main idea is to have him play Ubers. So every other team bought themselves. So the Tenacious Tyrannitars bought Vanny, who's good at OU and Ubers, Xylo, good at OU, Mr. 378 OU and Ubers in pretty much every tier. Only the vaporized Vaporeons didn't self-buy, and Esterosa bought himself, and he's really good at UU, and of course NU. I chose to be part of the We Fit Wolverines because I wanted to retain HSA. And HSA would have come at a very, 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 very cheap price. And I spoke to him, I reached out to him, and I said, listen, do you think you'll be able to play? And he's like, well, not really, but thanks for reminding me about this tournament. I might not have signed up otherwise. So, yeah, the thing is, as things turn out, he signed up basically half an hour from the closing of the signups and locking of the retains. So I couldn't retain him. Like, I wasn't aware that he was even available anymore at that point. So he went for relatively cheap. That said, as we go into this, I have to say that I'm quite happy with my team. So I have support for every tier, and I have experience in underused, of course. Unfortunately, I'm not always able to support that much, but, you know. And some players that are willing to play in each of these tiers. Now, going into this draft, Holland and we call him Giraffe. I just call him Giraffe. We're planning on using PK Leach as one of our OU players. But we never would have expected to get 3 of our top 4 ideal buys for GSC Overused. So things went quite differently from planned. We did manage to get PK Leach for 3K, so the lowest possible price. But we also got Tony Flygon for 17K. And we didn't even nominate him ourselves. And no one really contested beyond 17K, which was the really interesting thing. So we got that, which was an absolute steal. And then, not long after that, I don't remember who nominated Zakuru. Maybe it was us. Maybe it was someone else. I'm pretty sure someone else, again, nominated Zakuru. And we got him too. And we're like, holy fuck. We have 2 really, really, really strong OUers. Like they're both the top 2 players in our book that you can draft. And I got Zakru for 13K. And my theory around this is that people maybe don't know how to handle Zakuru. Maybe they're just afraid of him. I'm used to getting shit from him all the time, so it's totally fine. Like, he's not a bad person at all. I like we get along. We're great friends. Then we got Patat Deuce, another really, really underrated player, for 8K. Then we got Chulio for 5K. We didn't even intend to have Chulio on our team, but we got him, because I figured, why the hell not, right? And we were worried that we might have been locked out or something because we spent a little bit extra. But in the end, we also got all of the lower tier players that we intended. So, Danny Ratson. And we still had PK Leach, but, you know. Danny Ratson, then there's Fishing Rod, Celebi, Claire DeLuna, Ainscrad, who's great support for Ubers and all that stuff. So it's really, really good. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a brief breakdown of the whole draft. As for the power rankings, sorry for that long ass preamble. As far as the tiers are concerned, I don't see any team that is weak as shit. There's no team that sucks. So that's good. That means that this GSCPL will be good. I think the tier that might be the weakest is either UU or NU. Like all across the board. I don't know if that's going to be super exciting. And I'm saying that from someone who has mained GSC underused. So I don't know who on the Iron Man Mid-Champs plays UU. I'm kind of curious to see who they would have. Who is their UU player? Crying. Don't know them. Okay. And they're facing the defending champions, the Vaporized Vaporeons. So I like that the Vaporized Vaporeons have an extremely high potential. As far as overused is concerned, Siadam, without a doubt, is their star player. Ruby Blood is no slouch. Helpona is someone I've been talking to, sharing a lot of opinions. He's a new face to the tier. He finds that he's really enjoying his time spent in this tier. He got some help from Earthworm in his build, and he is doing really well. He managed to make it all the way to the semifinals for the GSC Cup and qualified for Classic Cup, Smogon Classic, and beat Soulwind in the GSC game and did it quite well in quite a dominating fashion. He played very well. The thing is, he was someone that definitely was on our radar, but I'm yet to see if, you know, he'll prove to be as consistent as it turns out, because a lot of his plays and teams and stuff are a bit high variance. I built some teams for him for GSC Cup, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how he'll perform. And let's see. So that team, as far as OU is concerned, seems pretty solid. Like, they could definitely get... I could see them going 2-0 in their OU each week consistently. And the outlier would, I suppose, be Helpona. And yeah. Now, for the other teams, let's see. So Vanny's team is one of the most interesting ones, actually, in my opinion. So Vanny, of course, himself is a really good player, and there's no need to put him in Ubers if they have Staxi, who is also really good. And Shiloh and... what's the other one? Rob Jr. Yeah. That's who I thought they would put in. So Rob Jr., really interesting player. Another possible retain that I could have retained, but it absolutely wasn't worth it because it was for... I would have had to retain him for 36K, and I don't care if you're God on Earth. You're not worth that much, considering the money at the start is 80K. That's... nobody in this team, on any team, is worth more than a quarter, you know, or more than, yeah, a sixth. Sadly, that sounds kind of crude, but it's not. It's not crude. It's just the reality. So Rob Jr., impressive player as far as UU is concerned. He's obviously known for... we spoke a lot about him, Giraffe and I, because he is known for just being a rather talented player, you know, in ADV, for instance. But sometimes he can go with the weirdest stuff and then end up shooting himself in the foot. What I mean is that I've been told that he uses like the linear curves teams and stuff, and the linear curve uses very, very, very unconventional teams, but it's known for everybody that he's really, really good in ADV. He's one of the best, if not, you know, the best. How does this relate to OU? Well, it turns out that there are a lot of stars in tournaments that have a lot of skills, and they manage to make those skills and carry them over to GSC or to other tiers. And that's always fun to watch. So Rob Jr. is going to be another one of those players that are fun to watch. Having said that, I looked at his GSC OU, and it doesn't seem quite as impressive as his UU. So that's why I say it's interesting. That lineup is interesting. I'm also pretty happy to see that they drafted ISZA. I was kind of intrigued by him, or them anyways, because ISZA is just... I scouted them, and turns out they're SPL players as well, and to just have someone at that level who also won SPL, I guess, I don't know, just seemed like it would have been a good pick if the OU draft had gone very poorly. Now let's look at the death size. So the death size have they have a million players, and all of them are pretty good. Pretty good. What is their lineup for this week? So, okay, that's not the lineup I would have had in mind, but all right. They have like six six people that are very proficient at OU, and like they can fill in the OU slot twice and still have a solid team. But I don't know L numbers. Vileman is obviously really good. That game happened. And there is Chiles. I don't really think of Chiles as an Ubers player. I do know that they played in Ubers Premier League, so they got experience from that. Their record wasn't too great, but that doesn't matter. In my eyes, the record is not the same as the level of play. That said, I don't think Ubers is Chiles' home turf. Chiles Habaneros. But that's fine. Iguana is also another pick for Ubers, honestly. Ironman Machamps. So the Machamps have Jester now and John Filch and Mr. 378 and Lax. So all five of these are pretty good. Lax is a player from a long with a long history as far as SPL and GSC is concerned. So, yeah. Giraffe told me that he played very, very well. And it goes without saying that he was one of the invitees for the GSC Invitational, the first one. I don't think the second one, but John Filch was someone that I noticed being able to hold his own in the Ruins of Alf Premier League against very, very strong players, including Mr. 378. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me that he bought him. There's, of course, my team, but I won't really go over that too much. I already said it. Personally, just in terms of like how active these players are and how they've been doing in recent tournaments, I would say that my lineup is perhaps one of the strongest in OU. Then there is the Raikus. The Raikus OU doesn't seem like much to write home about. Thor is a great player. Torchic is also an active and proficient learner of the tier, so that goes without saying. Lily, I don't personally know for OU, so I don't really know. But obviously HSA could be an OU player, and they have qualified for the GSC Invitational, and they have won the GSC Global Championships or the GSC Cup or something some long, long time ago. But that's not really their cup of tea, in my opinion. It's not really where they shine. So it would make more sense to have them in underused or never used because they're the low tier king. So for OU, I would say that the perhaps strongest OU lineup are the Wolverines, the Vaporeons, and let's see. I would say perhaps the Machamps. Although the Scythes aren't bad either. Could be the Scythes. The Scythes have a lot of talent, just like that. It's not even star power. It's just like some of these players are geniuses in the right context. But so is Jester, for example, from the Machamps. So I would say, yeah. That's the scary part, because I feel like my lineup is 3 really, really solid players, And then if you have someone with like this random moment of pure genius, that can kind of beat up the guy that's really consistent. I don't know. So there's a lot that can happen. But yeah, for OU, I would say Death Sights, Vaporeons, Machamps, and sure, the Wolverines are the strongest. And as for the lower tiers are a bit trickier. Lower tiers, okay, let's say that it's tricky to determine where every other team is, but it's really hard to argue that the Raikus aren't up there. They have Estarossa and HSA, two of the most prepared players when it comes to lower tier. HSA is just one of the best. You know, like a player, the only other player that I could think of that is so proficient and so damn good at all those levels and all those different tiers would, there are two. There's Siadam and Dawn, formerly Holly. But she's retired anyway. So Estarossa, also really, really active, really, really proficient. They have different play styles, but all are really good. But Siadam is obviously going to be occupied with Overused. So Estarossa has a really, really strong game. HSA really strong as well. As for Ubers, we're yet to see. You know, I don't know. But yeah. The Vaporeons also have Oathkeeper, who is a really strong NU player. Who do the Machamps have in their lineup? They have Lax. So Lax played NU. Lax is also played NU in the past GSCPLs. But yeah, I would say the Raikus are up there. My team, I feel like my team is really good in low tiers and really good in Overused. We're just really, really solid and probably got the best of both worlds. But yeah. So I don't want to reveal anything about my team. As for Ubers, which to me is sort of like a lower tier in a way. So when I say lower tiers, I sort of put that in the same ballpark, but I don't want people to get offended or anything. It doesn't mean that it's worse. So Ubers, I think that Vaddy's team, so the Tenacious Tyrannitars and the Iron Man Machamps are the strongest in Ubers. In fact, Mr. 378 went with a big-ass buy and bought a solo Ubers player for 24.5K. Isa, who is a veteran in the tier, and with the support of one of the strongest players of all time in GSC. Ubers, yeah. Thing is, Mr. 378 is also one of the strongest players in Underused as well. Like, you can't count him out for anything. He's just an amazing player. Vanny also really good when it comes to Ubers. There's no hiding that. Yeah, I'll be really excited to see how Chiles performs in Ubers. And as for I Love Mashing, I'm not really familiar with them. That doesn't mean that they're good or bad. It just means I don't have any evidence to say anything about them because I'm one person. It was hard enough for me to scout all of these players. Anyways, there you go. So I hope you guys enjoyed my brief little talk. This is the first week of GSCPL. It's gonna last it's gonna last 7 weeks. So stay tuned, as I might just record some games, maybe.